Volkswagen is telling the world how it plans to make amends for one of the biggest auto scandals in recent history.
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for product recalls that cost the companies behind the products lots and lots and lots of money.
Samsung is stepping up its recall, asking owners of the Note 7 to take immediate action to protect themselves.
Number 30, Simplicity Cribs.
Well, we've got some very serious recalls to tell you about tonight on some cribs. You see, apparently they could cause suffocation.
Sometimes it's an awful incident that leads to a product recall. And with Simplicity Cribs, that was unfortunately the case. In 2008, a young boy suffocated when he, according to the 2010 U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission or CPSC recall notice, became entrapped between the crib mattress and the crib frame. What makes that incident even more heartbreaking is that the cribs had been linked to 13 other injuries in the years prior. And in 2009, there was another death reported. As far as cost goes, well, it cost the company everything. They went out of business soon after the recall.
They say there's been 13 other instances of problems, but no other major injuries.
Number 29, Cadbury Schweppes.
Please include in your prayers Father McAndrew, who is violently ill with salmonella poisoning.
People love lots of different things in their chocolate. Nuts, candy, sea salt, mint, cookie dough, the list goes on. But you know one thing that no one likes with their chocolate? Salmonella, which is what the Cadbury Schweppes company added to some of its chocolate products, albeit unintentionally back in 2006. Some reports said that the recall in the UK and Irish markets was precautionary from the company itself. However, following a guilty plea in the courts, Cadbury released a statement admitting that at the time they, quote, did not believe that there was a threat to health and thus any requirement to report the incident to the authorities. The recall cost the company about £20 million, plus a drop in sales for the year. Number 28, Keurig Mini Plus Brewing Systems.
Take heed before you brew that next cup of joe. Keurig is recalling 6 million of its popular single-serving coffee makers.
While getting sprayed with burning hot water would certainly be one way to wake up in the morning, we much prefer a simple cup of coffee. Unfortunately, for about 90 Keurig customers who owned a specific Keurig Mini Plus brewing system manufactured between 2009 and 2014, coffee wasn't all they got. According to reports, these brewing systems had a defect that could cause them to overheat and even spray water. And at least 90 people suffered burn-related injuries from their Mini Pluses. According to Keurig, the recall cost the company about $10 million to remedy. Plus, there was a civil penalty settlement of $5.8 million, resulting from claims that they knew of the defect for a while before reporting it.
After receiving around 200 reports of hot liquid escaping from Mini Plus brewing systems during use, Keurig Green Mountain Inc. is recalling more than 7 million coffee-making systems.
Number 27, Menu Foods Pet Food.
Pet owners are understandably worried about just what they can even feed their cat or dog these days, and now they're asking if they have any legal recourse when it comes to vet bills or even the loss of a family companion.
Menu Foods was a Canadian pet food maker that produced foods sold under a number of different brand names. In 2007, the company issued a huge recall of 60 million food containers after hundreds of reports of animals vomiting and suffering from kidney failure. It turned out that wheat gluten imported from China contained traces of the chemical melamine. Over 100 animals died from eating the tainted food, and the cost to the company was massive. While the recall itself cost them at least $42 million, they also lost a large number of customers. They were bought out 3 years later.
More dogs and cats have died because of contaminated pet food since 60 million cans and pouches of food have been recalled.
Number 26, Sara Lee Deli Products.
Bad meat from Sara Lee has prompted a nationwide class action lawsuit. The meat contained a bacteria called Listeria.
In 1998, a series of deaths, miscarriages, and over 100 cases of illness were all linked back to one manufacturer, the Bill Maher Foods plant in Zeeland, Michigan. The plant produced hot dogs and various deli meats for the Sara Lee company. The culprit was determined to be a rare strain of Listeria and forced Sara Lee to recall between 15 to 35 million pounds of their meat products. It's been reported that the recall cost the company up to around $76 million. And that doesn't include the $25 million it spent to renovate the production plant that was ground zero for the outbreak. There was also a $4.4 million settlement stemming from charges brought by the United States Attorney for Western Michigan.
And more than 100 sickened people later, new evidence emerges indicating the company Sara Lee may have known well before the outbreak.
Number 25, Peter Pan Peanut Butter.
If you are one of the many who suffered from food poisoning because of contaminated peanut butter, you may be entitled to a cash award.
In 2016, a criminal fine of $11.2 million was levied on ConAgra, the makers of Peter Pan Peanut Butter. If there's anything extra you'd want to find in your Peter Pan peanut butter, it would probably be a little Tinkerbell pixie dust. But instead, between 2004 and 2007, Peter Pan peanut butter came with salmonella. And rather than make people fly, it made over 600 people sick. What makes us sick is the fact that the company kept shipping the peanut butter after multiple tests at the plant came back positive for salmonella. Add that $11.2 million to the $78 million the company spent on finally recalling the product, and the $15 million or more in plant renovations, and we're at over $100 million.
Consumer Alert store shelves typically stocked with peanut butter sitting empty tonight. A salmonella scare forcing many of our largest chains to pull it off the shelves.
Number 24, various AEL Laboratories products.
Well, my impression of the pharmaceutical industry is that it's always so nice.
AEL Laboratories was a New Jersey pharmaceutical company that produced generic drugs. In 2005, the FDA sent the company a lengthy warning outlining serious issues related to their quality assurance standards. In response, AEL Laboratories had to recall all of their products from the market and attempted to cut a deal with the courts that would allow them to settle the issue without admitting guilt. The FDA balked at the request, and the whole thing was estimated to have cost AEL Labs $103 million. They would end up filing for bankruptcy soon after, and eventually sell the company rather than try and make a comeback.
I'm not the first person to make money off the fact that our immune system is a work in progress. The pharmaceutical industry do it every quarter.
Number 23, Jack in the Box.
Welcome to Jack in the Box.
2 ultimate cheeseburgers.
Jack in the Box is a fast food restaurant chain that seems to be doing well these days, with over 2,200 locations. However, that success was nearly derailed back in the 90s after an E. coli outbreak almost forced them into bankruptcy. The outbreak occurred at Jack in the Box locations in the Pacific Northwest and was linked to undercooked hamburgers contaminated with fecal matter. The burgers made hundreds of people sick and led to the deaths of 4 children. Besides the cost of settling multiple lawsuits, the outbreak and the subsequent recall cost the chain upwards of $160 million in sales and almost 1/3 of its stock market value.
More than 150 people have become ill after eating tainted hamburger meat at Jack in the Box restaurants in Idaho and Washington state.
Number 22, Spinach.
Scientists today released results of the first major study on E. coli transmission since the 2006 spinach outbreak that killed 3 people and sickened 200 others.
We've always been told to eat our vegetables. However, back in 2006, the FDA told Americans to stop eating spinach. You see, while spinach is really good for you, spinach with E. coli is not. They never figured out exactly how the E. coli got on the leafy greens, but the recall by the Natural Selection Foods Company ended up dealing the U.S. spinach industry losses in the $350 million range. Then, just a couple of years later, the tomato industry was hit with a salmonella outbreak and a massive recall costing them $250 million, including lost sales. However, unlike the spinach, it turns out the tomatoes were not the culprits, but investigators figured that out too late.
So it has huge impact because in terms of health, public health, and also in terms of dollars that are wasted when all this spinach are contaminated. There's a recall of spinach.
Number 21, Pacor.
How can I get some of this?
None of those drugs have been approved by the FDA.
Screw the FDA.
On June 20th, 1997, the Food and Drug Administration approved the drug Pacor by Roche Laboratories. The drug was approved to treat high blood pressure and angina, and it may have been good at it, but it wasn't good at interacting with other drugs. In fact, there were 26 other drugs that would cause a toxic reaction from Pacor. However, it took months for warnings about the drug interactions to go out. And an article in the LA Times from 2000 brought to light FDA records reporting, quote, Pacor as a suspect in the deaths of 100 patients. Within a year of approval, Roche was recalling Pacor, leading to an estimated $2.9 billion in losses.
What a surprise. FDA approved.
Number 20, Infantino Sling Rider Baby Slings.
The first thing we're saying to mums is don't panic.
In 2010, over 1 million Sling-style Infantino brand baby carriers were recalled from the market. The The Consumer Product Safety Commission determined there was a risk of asphyxiation for those being carried.
You might have your baby in a sling next to you and not notice that the baby has gone into this position where it cannot breathe.
After 3 infant deaths occurred, an investigation was launched, which revealed sling-style carriers could fatally block air passages. The risk was especially great for those under the age of 4 months. In March 2010, the CPSC issued a report linking 14 deaths to the product, dating back as far as 1990, and just weeks later, the recall was issued.
If you are going to shop Craigslist for any type of infant products, do you go to the CPSC website?
I would check their website before you purchase something.
Number 19, Roman blinds.
I mean, people aren't always in a position to just yank them off the windows and go without.
The exact number of deaths and injuries due to this product can be debated, as use of Roman blinds is so widespread. But what cannot be argued is the fact that in 2009, all Roman-style blinds were recalled from the market.
We had placed those shades there next to his crib with no idea that they were potentially so dangerous.
What does all constitute? Well, around 50 million units. The United States Consumer Product Safety Commission pulled Roman-style blinds when several children became entangled in the shade's exposed inner cord.
It's really shocking, because a lot of us have these in our homes.
Ultimately, the report recommended consumers stop using Roman-style shades altogether if they were not equipped with updated safety precautions.
Obviously, we want to sell a product that's safe. It's safe for our customers, it's safe for their pets, it's safe for their children.
Number 18, Easy Bake Ovens. Introduced in 1963, the Easy Bake Oven was immediately appealing.
What can I get for 8,000 tickets?
A BB gun or an Easy Bake Oven?
Hot food is tempting, but I just can't say no to a weapon.
Kids getting to make tasty treats? What's not to like? In 2007, however, Hasbro recalled its latest model of the toy after they received numerous substantial complaints of children getting their fingers stuck in the oven's door.
Do you remember putting your hand in there? So how come you're putting your hand in there again?
Hasbro issued a voluntary recall and made available a free U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission approved guard for all who still wanted to keep the oven. Except it didn't work. The CPSC report revealed approximately 250 more cases of fingers getting caught in the door, and nearly 80 cases of burns.
New Easy Bake, yeah, it's the one for you. Cakes and cookies, baking with friends.
This brought on another recall. In the end, the recall affected nearly 1 million Easy Bake ovens.
Who wants cookie?
Oh, me.
You know that batter is like 30 years old.
Number 17, Mattel Toys. Fears over the lead content of Chinese-manufactured Fisher-Price toys led to a huge recall in 2007. Mattel, owner of Fisher-Price, was found to be selling toys covered in paint with the harmful element. Lead poisoning can cause multiple symptoms and be fatal, particularly for younger people.
There is absolutely no excuse for lead to be found in toys entering this country.
In the U.S. alone, roughly 9 million lead-coated products were involved in the recall. The recall itself cost Mattel around $30 million. The company was also fined more than $2 million for selling the products in the first place.
Molly Gedeker says all these toys have some lead in them, and these are not recalled items.
And they've all come back at different levels, all above the regulatory limit for packaging and toys.
3 years later, a similar scandal struck.
Everyone wanted to be the one who rescued Rocky, and everyone thought they could do it without help from anyone else.
Number 16, McDonald's Shrek glasses. Trace amounts of the toxic metal cadmium were found in some limited edition McDonald's glasses back in 2010. The items were part of a promotion for Shrek Forever After and featured everyone's favorite Shrek characters painted on them, along with the threat of ingesting an illness-inducing toxin. McDonald's tried to defend this by saying the glasses didn't actually contain that much cadmium.
Federal regulators are recalling these glasses because they say that the paint used to decorate them contains cadmium.
But we argue that any amount of a dangerous carcinogen is definitely too much, especially where children's drinkware is concerned. McDonald's offered customers a refund of $3 per glass.
The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission is warning parents to stop using the glasses and to return these glasses for a refund. McDonald's will be posting refund instructions on its website next week.
Considering it initially charged $2 and 12 million glasses were recalled, that put the company at least $12 million in the red. Number 15, Ford Pintos. In action movies, it's not uncommon to see a car explode after even the smallest impact. Starting as early as 1973, there were cases stating that the Ford Pinto might be volatile. It wasn't until 1974 that something official came about, with a petition put forth by the Center for Auto Safety to recall the car make.
Compare Pinto. It may be the best small car buy in America.
Apparently, the Ford Pinto's gas tank was poorly positioned between the rear axle and bumper, and it tended to catch fire when it touched the shock absorber in the back of the car, and thus would frequently explode in rear-end collisions. Ford faced a slew of legal battles and accusations criticizing its decision-making both before and during the scandal. Ultimately, Ford issued a massive recall, and in 1980, they stopped producing the Pinto altogether.
America's best-selling small car last year is an even better idea for 77.
Number 14, Westland Hallmark Meats. In 2008, the largest meat recall in American history took place when California's Westland Hallmark Meat Company was caught up in an enormous scandal. Undercover footage from animal rights groups revealed that workers were mistreating certain cows that were part of their beef production. Those heinous actions are strictly against the law in the United States. The ensuing recall resulted in a final judgment of almost $500 million for the company. This was thanks in part to the fact that the company provided meat to the U.S.'s school lunch program. The company's connection to education put even more attention on the scandal.
It's always appropriate for government, the federal government, us as Department of Education, and certainly for school districts to do what they can to ensure parent trust in the food that their kids are eating at school. I mean, that's just absolutely critical.
Ultimately, Westland Hallmark's meat went bankrupt because nobody wanted to touch their products after such horrendous behavior. Number 13, Sony Batteries. Major laptop manufacturer Dell issued a recall for notebook laptops back in 2006 because of the batteries inside. These Sony-made batteries carried a major flaw. They were a huge fire hazard. Multiple stories broke about people's laptops burning during use and reports of laptop owners getting injured.
Dell has set up a hotline for consumers. We called it 10 times today and got the following message.
Call volumes are extremely high for the Dell battery replacement hotline.
Luckily, no one suffered any severe damage. But it seemed that Sony didn't completely fix the problem in the aftermath of the incident. Around 2 years later, another recall of laptops containing Sony batteries was issued. This time it wasn't just Dell, but also Toshiba and HP.
Oh, you've been working with HP?
Yeah. And in the worst consumer hat trick ever, Dell recalled over 4 million computers due to batteries in 2011. Sony lost hundreds of millions of dollars for these missteps. Number 12, Scarlet Red Dye. For years, an illegal red food dye has been causing mass recalls in the United Kingdom and Europe. The specific dye in question, bright red Sudan 1 dye, was banned by the EU in 2003 because it was found to be a carcinogen.
The dye was in a batch of chili powder used by Hertfordshire-based Premier Foods to manufacture a Worcester sauce. This was then used in a wide range of products, from soups to ready meals to pot noodles.
That's definitely not the kind of thing you wanted added to almost everything red you can buy in a store. Since it was found in chili and curry powders, chicken tikka, and pesto, it was a pretty tricky thing to avoid at the time.
It seems curry eaters are part of the problem. Some customers have got so used to the dish looking a particular way that they're not convinced by the natural version, and even send it back when it doesn't appear bright red.
The earliest recalls started in the mid-2000s, and after many warnings from the British Food Standards Agency to the companies in question, the recalls spread across the entirety of the European bloc. Number 11, Tylenol.
And I think that this is something that we can learn from today, that having
at least empathy for consumers and understanding that if there's consumer health and safety issues, you need to go that extra mile.
This pain reliever was pulled from the market in October 1982 after it was linked to 7 fatalities. Reports determined Tylenol in Chicago and its surrounding areas had been tampered with and laced with potassium cyanide.
We've been receiving calls about once every 15 seconds.
Johnson & Johnson, Tylenol's parent company, promptly issued warnings, suspended production, and set in motion a full nationwide recall.
Across the Orlando area, stores checked their extra-strength Tylenol stock. Many stores removed it.
In total, Tylenol pulled nearly $100 million worth of product from the market, and the entire pharmaceutical industry developed special packaging to prevent tampering.
And now reintroducing Tylenol capsules, safety sealed 3 ways.
Interestingly, no culprits in this case were ever caught. But in the wake of the crisis, the public was scared by several copycat offenses. The company faced yet another recall in 2010, but this time initiated due to mildew in its products.
It's the latest blow to the drug maker's reputation and something parents have to think about every time they try to buy medicine for their kids.
Number 10, the Peanut Corporation of America's peanut products.
It's just not something that you sort of think of as a dangerous product.
Remember that salmonella outbreak in 2008? If you don't, you should. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported 9 deaths and over 700 cases of food poisoning as a result of negligence.
Some people are starting to look at the salmonella outbreak of the Peanut Corporation of America as this trend towards more pandemic outbreaks.
After an extensive collaborative investigation between the CDC and the FDA, the outbreak was traced back to a Peanut Corporation of America plant in Georgia.
They were working against them through lies, through cover-up, and through anything they could do to prevent the truth from coming out.
Reports on that facility, as well as the one in Texas, revealed unsanitary conditions such as dead animals and moldy ceilings. Reports also accused the plant and company CEO of approving the sale of products that had already tested positive for salmonella.
Victims from the contamination have been waiting and calling for these people to be charged for a long time, and so they finally got their answer today.
The scandal's recall was the largest pertaining to food in U.S. history, and it forced the Peanut Corporation to bankruptcy. Number 9, Toyota accelerator pedals.
It happens without warning.
Now I'm going to hit the brake while the throttle's floored. Watch.
Oh my God.
Between 2009 and 2011, millions of vehicles from many of Toyota's brands, including Lexus, had to be recalled because of a life-threatening fault with the accelerator pedals. This recall affected Toyota cars around the planet, with more than 14 million vehicles caught up in the proceedings. Close to 40 people may have lost their lives as a result of the faulty pedals preventing cars from decelerating. An entire family tragically lost their lives in a Lexus in 2009. Repairing the catastrophic fault cost Toyota over $1 billion.
Simply put, Toyota's engineers weren't up to the job on this one.
Number 8, Bextra. It's always frightening to think that a drug could make it to market that carries untold risks to anyone who needs to take it. That's why a lawsuit that cost American pharmaceutical company Pfizer over $2 billion was so significant. In 2005, an anti-inflammatory drug Bextra that was made and marketed by Pfizer was taken off shelves by the FDA. It was shown to increase the risks of a heart attack significantly. Pfizer was then caught up in numerous lawsuits about Bextra for defrauding the patients it intended to help, which was largely people suffering from arthritis.
Pfizer, which makes those drugs, will plead guilty to 1 criminal count stemming from the improper promotion of Bextra, and they'll pay a $1.3 billion penalty.
Luckily, plenty of safer alternative medications without adverse effects exist to help those who were using Bextra. Number 7, GM's faulty ignition switches. It was reported that over 100 people lost their lives due to faulty ignition switches in a wide range of General Motors vehicles. This led to a massive recall and costly lawsuits in 2014. Billions of dollars were spent recalling the faulty vehicles that could crash when their engines would cut out without warning.
On the road, it can lead to an anxious moment, sudden surprise, or worse.
To make matters worse, no engines meant no airbags. But the situation got worse for the company and far more concerning for consumers. It eventually came out that GM had known the switches didn't work for close to 10 years.
But lawsuits and congressional testimony this year has uncovered GM knew about these defective ignition switches dating back to 2002 and did nothing to alert customers. And in many of those early cases, victims and families may not have documentation to get compensation.
After the lawsuits started piling up, GM actually decided to do something about it, to the tune of $3 billion. Number 6. Ford Explorer's Firestone Tires. In 2000, after a warning from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Ford launched an investigation into the quality of the Firestone tires that it used on its vehicles.
With long-lasting Firestone Champion tires, is there really such a thing as a wrong turn?
They determined that several Firestone models failed far more often than what's considered normal. And after more tests, found that Explorers fitted with these tires tended to roll over when they failed.
Most of the deaths and injuries involve Ford Explorers, not other vehicles equipped with the same tires.
One possible reason for these problems? Before the Explorer was first put on the market, they discovered it was inclined to roll over in accidents. Instead of a complete redesign, they opted to reduce air pressure in the tires. However, low tire pressure can lead to accelerated deterioration of the rubber. Reports vary, but these Firestone tire failures are thought to have caused hundreds of deaths and thousands of injuries. The recall ultimately pulled over 14.4 million tires.
Explorer was built for any kind of adventure, so get up, get out, get moving.
Number 5. The Galaxy Note 7.
Because to make it big, you don't just need a big smartphone. You need a smartphone that thinks big.
You may remember a large number of viral videos after the launch of Samsung's Galaxy Note 7 that showed the cell phone spontaneously combusting. Design and manufacturing defects with the type of batteries used in the phones led to overheating.
The device's lithium-ion batteries exploding or igniting, the company says, sparking as many as 35 reported fires.
This flaw subsequently led to the device catching fire in far too many cases. To make matters even more embarrassing for Samsung, they made a big mistake when trying to fix the issue. After changing to another battery supplier and issuing replacements, the new phones also ended up catching fire. It was a cell phone that certainly had potential. All in all, Samsung lost between $5 and $17 billion from the fiasco.
It's fair to say other companies have had issues with batteries, others have had software problems with phones, but nothing on the scale of the disaster that hit the Galaxy Note 7.
Number 4. Vioxx. Approved by the FDA in 1999, Vioxx was yet another drug that was the subject of a recall, this time in 2004. Almost $9 billion went into recalling it after it was found to greatly increase the risk of heart attacks. And there was a horrible reason why Vioxx was allowed to stay on the market for so long. Merck & Company, who produced Vioxx, didn't report all of the data linking the drug to increased risk of strokes and heart attacks.
I don't understand why not to put some strict restriction rather than pulling it out.
If the company had done due diligence, they would have potentially spread medical evidence that Vioxx seemed to be responsible for illness and fatal consequences years earlier than they did. Merck & Company's serious lack of oversight was linked to over 140,000 separate cases and a $4.85 billion mass tort settlement between them and the lawyers of thousands of lawsuits. Number 3. Chinese milk.
This scandal with powdered baby milk has again shaken consumer confidence.
Back in 2008, China recalled approximately 9,000 tons of powdered baby formula. It was revealed that China's largest producer of the stuff had issued products cut with melamine, a dangerous chemical used for plastic that can also be used to falsely indicate high protein levels when added to milk.
700 tons of milk powder have been yanked from Chinese store shelves, but parents' fear is sticking around.
According to reports, it was this misleading nutritional information that led to at least 6 deaths from complications with their kidneys. Ultimately, the scandal affected 300,000 victims.
The responsibility to let the consumers know that what they put in their mouth or in the children's mouth is safe, that the ultimate responsibility for that is, of course, with the government.
2 men were sentenced to death by Shijiazhuang's Intermediate People's Court for their role in selling the contaminated powder. Number 2. Volkswagen.
It's more than just a car.
Back in 2015, The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency charged Volkswagen with breaching the Clean Air Act, a 1963 law that tries to ensure exactly what its name implies. The investigation revealed that 11 million Volkswagen vehicles that had turbocharged direct injection diesel engines were programmed using defeat devices to keep emissions at approved levels during testing periods, but would forego those controls afterwards, thereby releasing unapproved levels of nitrogen oxide into the air.
In other words, there was no way this was accidental because the software was designed very carefully to detect an official emissions test.
As a result, Volkswagen made plans to invest over $18 billion to refit affected models across the globe and reduce their emissions. As you can imagine, their reputation also took a bit of a hit.
But the CEO, addressing some 2,000 employees and speaking publicly made no bones about it. This is going to be painful and it's going to be complicated.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Takata airbags.
5 million more vehicles with the potentially defective Takata airbags.
Chances aren't bad that you've sat in a car with Takata Corporation airbags, given that they've been manufactured since 1988 and covered 20% of the airbag market.
Sure. Thank God the airbag's activated. Those are my lungs. Aww.
However, in 2013, complaints against the company came pouring in, citing issues that may have spanned the previous 10 years. Honda asserted that their product caused 8 deaths and approximately 100 injuries, claiming that even in minor collisions, Takata airbags propelled deadly shrapnel upon deployment.
The 34-year-old says when her airbag deployed, the flying shrapnel cut off more than half of her left ear.
An investigation revealed it was a Takata production plant in Mexico that had inappropriately assembled the less stable parts of the airbags. Over the course of the controversy, several recalls were issued, necessitating the recall of millions of vehicles from various brands, including Ford, Toyota, Chrysler, and BMW.
This inflator had been recalled in 61 other countries by other manufacturers. Ford, NHTSA, and Takata all knew that this inflator had problems.
Have you ever had a product you owned recalled? Let us know in the comments.
Quality assurance. Your job. I really think you screwed the pooch on this one.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.